Ahora vamos a empezar. Before we even start looking at examples, I want you to think about uses of por that you already know. Have you ever heard por before? Yes, of course. It's 201. You've heard por plenty of times. ¿Cuál es un ejemplo con por? Repite. Porque. Excelente. Ejemplo, porque se usa mucho y también tiene dos formas. Forma de pregunta, ¿por qué? Y forma de respuesta, ¿por qué? ¿Otro ejemplo con por, Imani?
Dice, por la mañana.
Por la mañana, excelente. Por la mañana, por la tarde, por la noche. Otro uso de por, Caitlin? Por favor. Now, ¿cómo se dice por favor in English? Please. And today, I'm going to try to remember because I actually didn't include an example in the presentation, but in the practice I did, of por favor, how we can build on what we already know with por favor. Por favor means please, but really the word favor is a word for favor in English. So we're going to see how por with people is used to do favors on someone's behalf. Otro ejemplo con por, ¿sí?
Por ejemplo.
Por ejemplo. Now, por ejemplo, ¿qué más? ¿Algo más? Bueno, hay muchos, pero el objetivo de listar las expresiones con por es para mostrarles que por no es nada nuevo, es algo que nosotros conocemos muy bien. Pero ahora, con ejemplos, ustedes van a identificar los usos, ¿no? Al revés. ¿El libro lista los usos? No. Ustedes van a identificar los usos por destacar el contexto que revela el uso de por. Estuvo en tráfico por 3 horas. Entonces, en sus papeles necesitan completar la frase por 3 horas. En sus papeles, perdón, no escribo bien, pero entienden lo que quiero que hagan. Por 3 horas. So why do you think I want you to copy beyond the por? Why would I want you to copy the 3 horas part? What is this saying? Estuvo en tráfico por 3 horas. What am I saying here? For 3 hours. Right, exactly. He or she was in traffic, or you forma was in traffic for 3 hours. So instead of translating what por is in English, let's focus on the context clues that are going to reveal when we use por and when we use para, because of course on the supersite you're just completing por versus para, but all of those activities where it's one or the other, they're only like 1 in 10 activities. So what you need to do when you do those activities and on the test is identify the context clues that reveal the use of por. And por is used when we have any period of time, any time of reference of time. 2 minutos, or, 5 días, or 6 semanas, or un mes, or 4 años. Whatever period of time, a duration of time, is when we use por. Okay? So your context clues is a number plus some sort of reference of time. ¿Entienden? So en sus papeles, ustedes pueden indicar el uso. Actually, period of time. Period of time. Because por is used with a duration of time. Whenever we say how long something lasted. ¿Ok? ¿Entienden? Bueno, vamos a otro ejemplo. Mucho más difícil, menos obvio. Por no utilizar el navegador GPS, se perdió. So what happened here? He what? He got lost. Why? He didn't use his GPS. So notice when we interpret this, we already are identifying a use of por. It's very obvious, even though the word order is what's not so obvious. So the meaning is obvious, but the grammar isn't so much. When we reviewed the meaning, in English, I asked you why. Por qué. So when we have a use of por, that provides an explanation. Because if you can rewrite this sentence plugging in por qué, then you know it's por. For example, por ejemplo, se perdió porque no utilizó el navegador GPS. When I can rearrange the word order of this sentence and change por to por qué, a phrase we're very familiar with, I simply have to conjugate utilizar to utilizó because we know que connects two subjects and two verbs, so does por qué. Por qué is another connector. So that's all we're doing here. So I want you to build on what you know. You know por qué in the form of a question means why, or together means because. So whenever you can apply that to por plus an infinitive and simply rearrange the word order, or at least gather meaning, oh, this is an explanation. This is a reason why. He got lost because he didn't use his GPS. Whenever you can do that, you know it's por. But don't just rely on por plus infinitive, because we can use para with infinitives. We have before. Se usa para ver. Se usa para hablar. No? Or se usa para arrancar el carro. So don't rely on por plus infinitive. You need to build on what you know, por qué. ¿Ok? ¿Entienden? Vamos a practicar ese concepto. Este ejemplo es mucho más fácil. Pagué $300 por estas llantas. So what idea am I conveying here? What am I saying? I've what? Paid $300 for the tires, these tires. Right, exactly. So por means for, but we can't translate because that's not going to help us. We need to recognize the context clue here that helps us determine the use of por. And we use por when we exchange goods, when we pay for something. So your context clue is probably going to be money. But you know, like in elementary school, you trade your Doritos for your friend's chocolate chip cookie. And you can use por in that exchange. So it may not always be monetary. Anytime you trade or exchange anything for something else. But probably on the super side in the test, if you see money involved with por right after it or right before it, you're probably going to use por, okay? Before the blank. Okay, ejemplo. Dejé mi móvil por aquí ayer. Y hoy no está. Okay, so por aquí. Por la clase, or por la silla en mi carro. Por with a place when we leave something behind, when we lose something, when we're referencing where something is. Okay, and we're going to look at por with places later. And this I haven't actually seen. I mean, I guess you see it a lot, you hear it a lot, but not as much as some other ones. But anyway, that's the use of por. In this example, y el ejemplo de por que acabamos de examinar, aplicar con la pregunta. Conduzco por la calle, King. Por la calle, no? So when we were talking about por in our original response, and we were talking about por in this example, it's being used to convey what? I drive through or down King Street, right? So we can interpret it different ways or translate it different ways. But really, this is not necessarily talking about where I'm going. It's talking about how I get there. And it's very important to note that por with places is used when we're talking about a route. Por ejemplo, yo soy de Kentucky. Y para ir a Kentucky, yo conduzco por North Carolina y Tennessee. Okay? That's not where I'm going, but those are the states I have to drive through to get there. No? Conduzco por North Carolina y Tennessee. Or para ir a Mount Pleasant, conducimos por el Puente Ravenel. Or para ir a Folly Beach, conducimos por James Island. No? So por is used with route, and we'll talk about para later. So not necessarily just por with a place, or if you see a place it's por, you have to identify if it's talking about a route, not a destination, what you're going through to get somewhere. So we'll see verbs like conducir, or you'll see verbs like pasar, like I go by Starbucks on my way to class. So, cuando voy a mis clases, paso por Starbucks, or paso por la biblioteca. That's not where you're going, but that's what you go by. Okay, otro ejemplo con por. Le escribo mensajes de texto a mi esposo por móvil. Todos los días, por móvil. ¿Cómo se dice móvil en inglés? Mobile, cell phone, exactamente. Muy bien. Or por teléfono, or por celular, or por FaceTime, or por Snapchat, or por Instagram, or por Facebook. Any type of mode of communication. Any reference to a mode of communication. That's what we're looking for when we use por. Por correo electrónico. Por Oaks. Ustedes conversaron por Oaks cuando no tuvimos clase. Conversaron por Oaks. ¿Entienden este uso de por? Ok, muy bien. Y el último ejemplo con por, en los Estados Unidos se maneja mucho por carro. So we just talked about modes of communication, and now we have a mode of transportation. Muy bien. Mode of transportation. Por avión, por tren, por bus, por bicicleta. Now, por plus any reference of por taxi, por Uber, por Lyft, por with any type of mode of transportation. ¿Entienden? So look at the context clues. Don't try to memorize necessarily the rule in English or what the word is in English. Look at the blank on the super site and look at the context clues, and then you can apply por o para. ¿Entienden? Okay. Y tal examen. So para, ahora vamos a hablar de para. ¿Conocemos expresiones con para? Have we used para at all this semester? La lección 10, la lección 11, se usa para, ¿no? Se usan para ver, ¿no? Se usan para ver, ¿no? Los ojos. El examen de la lección 10, or se usan para arrancar el carro, las llaves. So as you can see, we can use para with an infinitive. So previously with por, we saw por with an infinitive when we were stating what? Por no utilizar el navegador GPS se perdió. Por no utilizar. What is that? What is that use of por? Por plus an infinitive can be used to state what? An explanation, a reason why. Pero en este ejemplo, para plus infinitive is used to state not an explanation, but how would you classify this use of para plus an infinitive? Do you know? Like a purpose, in order to. Para plus an infinitive is used to state the purpose of something, or we could interpret it as in order to. Para aprender español, se necesita hacer la tarea, estudiar, ir a clases, hablar español, participar. ¿No? Ok, y vamos a más ejemplos. Más usos de para. Salgo para el taller mecánico hoy a las 5. Salgo para. Salgo is como voy. No? Voy a salgo para. They mean the same thing. We just don't always use para with voy. We usually use it with salgo. But we talked about in the previous examples por with a place. And now we have para with a place. ¿Cómo se dice el taller mecánico? ¿Qué es taller mecánico? Jiffy Lube, Hey Tire, Gerald's. These are all talleres mecánicos, right? Places where you get your car worked on. ¿Entienden? Okay, so this is a place. So why wouldn't I use por? I just talked about using por with places. But when I talked about using por with places, it was the route. Exactly. But this is what? Where I'm going, the destination. Exactly. Muy diferente. You can use them in the same sentence. Salud. Para ir a Kentucky. Conduzco por North Carolina y Tennessee. Para ir a Kentucky. Kentucky is my destination. And then I use por to tell you my route. ¿Entienden? So you can use them both with a place at the same time when you talk about where you're going and how you get there. ¿Entienden? Okay. Otro ejemplo. Esta computadora portátil es para Alicia. Para Alicia. Una persona. So how is para being used here? Para Alicia. Para Alicia, what's it saying? This laptop is for Alicia, right? We know what this means, but why are we using para with a person here? Because we can use por with people. ¿Cómo se dice, por favor? Sí, muy bien, gracias. So Alicia is receiving this computer, okay? She's the recipient of a gift or whatever. The pizza es para ustedes, or recipient, recipiente, whatever. So a recipient of something, like estos exámenes son para mis estudiantes. It doesn't even have to be a gift. It can be something like los exámenes, okay? Whenever you're receiving something, whoever it's for, so at the end of the semester, on all your Christmas gifts for me, or your gifts that you're giving me to say thanks for being such a good teacher, you're going to write para profeseta, like Day Martin, okay? That's how you give a gift in Spanish. That's how you write your little card. You obviously aren't going to give me a gift. But I just want to illustrate the use of para. Because I asked, what does por favor mean again? Por favor means what? Please, but favor is really the word for favor. So you can have por with people when you're doing them a favor, okay? So por with people is like por favor, for a favor, doing something on someone's behalf. Like somebody's absent in class and you're taking notes for that person, okay? But if you're giving somebody something and you're not talking about taking the notes for them, you're saying the notes, like you're giving the notes to them. This example is getting a little confusing, but we can use por and para with people. It depends on the context. Are you doing something for someone, or are you giving something to someone? Para mí, para ti. Se usan las llaves para arrancar el carro. So this is una descripción de vocabulario en el examen. I'm going to give you las llaves, and here's your answer. Se usan las llaves para arrancar el carro. So how is para plus infinitive being used in this example? Because we can use por with infinitives. But when we use para with infinitives, we're not giving an explanation. This is para plus an infinitive to state a purpose. Purpose. They are used for. This is what they're used for. So careful, very careful, because you can have porque, why, or para que. You can have para with que in a question. It does not always need to be with por. Por ejemplo, you could say, ¿para qué se usan las llaves? ¿Para qué se usa el teléfono? ¿Para qué se usa la pluma? When you want to find the purpose, find out what the purpose is for something. So don't automatically assume que in a question is going to be prefaced with para. Por. It can also be para. The difference is purpose, explanation. El examen es para lunes, no martes. Para nosotros, martes. Para martes. So how is para being used here? Para is being used here to talk about an upcoming event, an upcoming day, an upcoming deadline. Something that's coming up on the calendar. ¿Cuándo es la fiesta? La fiesta es para el sábado. ¿Cuándo es el concierto? Para noviembre. Para plus some sort of reference in the future. Something on a calendar. A day, date. Okay, here's another example of para plus an infinitive. And this one I feel like for students is the most ambiguous, the less obvious. But when you figure out what it's meaning and how it's being used, para ser antiguo is saying what? Para ser antiguo el televisor funciona bien. What do we know about this TV? It's what? It's old, it's antique, right? But what else? It works. Which is kind of a paradox, a contradiction. So para, paradox. Or if you don't know what that word means, it's a contradiction. It's not an explanation. Por plus infinitive is an explanation, but para plus an infinitive is a contradiction. So Manu Ginobili es bajo, no? Para ser bajo, juega bien al básquetbol, no? Eso es una paradoja. Típicamente las personas bajas no son buenas cuando juegan al básquetbol. So es una paradoja, una contradicción. Para ser bajo, juega bien. ¿Entienden? Okay. Otro uso. Trabajo para College of Charleston. Ay, perdón. Trabajo para. So what's this saying? I what? I work for my employer. Employment, but also like Ben y Jake juegan al fútbol para College of Charleston. So, it could also be whatever you're, an athlete. Manu Ginobili juega para San Antonio Spurs. So employment or your sports team or something like that. Okay? ¿Entienden más o menos? Pues chicos, vamos a ver si entienden bien. Y todos van a participar por pulgar arriba, por, y para pulgar hacia abajo. ¿Entienden? Por, para. Por, or para. So here we have an infinitive. So right now, what are you trying to determine? Por with an infinitive means what? Explanation. And para with an infinitive can mean a couple things. What's para with an infinitive used for?
A reason.
Well, that's more of an explanation. Sorry. A purpose. Muy bien. Or a paradox. This is probably not a paradox because these things go hand in hand. So it's either purpose versus explanation. Por or para. ¿Qué piensan? Por o para. Probablemente para. Para navegar en la red. ¿Para qué necesitas la conexión inalámbrica? ¿Para qué necesitas la Wi-Fi? Para navegar en la red. No? If you, some of you all might be thinking, well, it's kind of confusing because that could be a reason or an explanation. But por would need por qué. Necesitas navegar en la red. Grammatically, it can't be used like that without por qué and then conjugating the next verb. We don't have all that. And therefore, we can't use por. Otro ejemplo. Por or para. Este ejemplo es más obvio. Por o para. Por o para. Por o para. Todas están de correctas. Muy bien, por. Why is it por? It's a place. But is the door my destination? No. That's my what? That's how I get to class. I go through the door. ¿Entienden? Más difícil. Por or para. Okay, so we have another one of those infinitives. So how do you determine? If it's por, it's a what? Explanation. Why something happened. But if it's para plus infinitive, it's either purpose or a paradox, a contradiction. So por or para. Por, muy bien, por estar nervioso. Cuando conducías, pusiste los frenos por estar nervioso. Pusiste los frenos porque estabas nervioso, ¿no? Explicación. Okay, so we have a person. So what's the difference between por and para with people? So there's your context clue, but now you know por and para can be used with people. If por is used with people, think about an expression you know very, very well. ¿Cómo se dice please in español? Por favor. If por is used with people, you're doing them a favor. Think about it like that. But if para is used with people, that person is the recipient of a gift, of a noun, of something. So por or para. Por. You're doing this for him. ¿Entienden? Okay, Martica. So we have a person, and so you're deciding, is she the recipient of a gift or something? Or are you doing something like a favor for her on her behalf? Por or para? Por, chicos, por. ¿Entienden? ¿Por qué? You did that for her. ¿Qué es precio barato? Precio barato es, yeah, a low price, a cheap price. Por, muy bien, excelente. Exchange of goods. So you're looking at this. Nuevo. No funciona. Para. No, una paradoja. A paradox, ¿sí? Jueves. Por or para. Por or para. Para. Muy bien. Now, upcoming dates or deadline. Okay, bueno, chicos.